Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a very special episode of Easy Buckets. How are you guys doing today? Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. In this video, I got something that I guarantee you guys are going to love, especially if you're a big Lakers fan. We're going to be talking about the Lakers roster and talking about a front court player that I believe they must sign. I want to see the Lakers bring back DeMarcus Cousins. The Lakers right now have a roster of 14 players, which means there's one more spot available, and I believe with this final spot, signing one more center to give them a dangerous, scary front court, it makes sense. It's something I believe they're thinking about, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about why and why Boogie is the perfect target. So if you're a big Lakers fan and you want to know more, let's not waste any time, let's get into it. DeMarcus Cousins a few years ago used to be one of the best centers in the NBA. As we speak, he is currently a UFA, an unrestricted free agent, and so far no NBA team has signed him yet. After spending the last NBA season with the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Clippers, DeMarcus Cousins had a pretty good season. He was pretty healthy, and because injuries were a big part of his setback in his career, I am really happy for Boogie because last year it looked like things were getting better. Last season, he averaged about 8.9 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 0.8 steals, and 0.6 blocks. And if you watch the NBA playoffs, he wasn't a big factor of why the Clippers made it to the conference finals, but there were some games where he did play, and during those times, Boogie was unbeatable. He was a beast in the paint. From what it looks like right now, the NBA has kind of given up on DeMarcus Cousins. But in my opinion, I do believe Boogie has still a lot to give to the NBA, and teams should not rule him out yet. And if you could sign Boogie to a veteran's minimum contract, it's a bang for your buck, it's worth it. In January of 2018, DeMarcus Cousins was considered the best center in the NBA, but then he ended up rupturing his Achilles while on the Pelicans. After getting hit with that injury, DeMarcus Cousins left the Pelicans and then signed with the Golden State Warriors. And playing 30 games for the Warriors, he averaged about 16 points, 8 boards, and honestly, he looked like his old self. But then going into the playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers, DeMarcus Cousins tore his left quad, and this was the second big injury of his career. And then fast forward a few months later, the Lakers ended up signing DeMarcus Cousins because of that big Anthony Davis trade. They wanted to have a dominant front court of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, just like the Pelicans. But before the 2020 NBA started, DeMarcus Cousins got hit with a third significant injury. He tore his ACL. These past injuries are a big reason why right now DeMarcus Cousins does not have a contract. But guys, as I mentioned earlier, do not sleep on Boogie. I do believe now he's healthy and has a lot to prove in the NBA. And you guys know exactly what team I'm talking about that should give him a chance. I want to see the Los Angeles Lakers give Boogie a second chance on the roster, but more importantly, a second chance where he actually gets playing time. What I mean by this is I just mentioned it earlier. A few years ago when they signed DeMarcus Cousins, he did not play a single game for the Lakers. And with that being said, they ended up replacing him with Dwight Howard. Of course, with that Dwight Howard signing, it ended up them winning the NBA championship, but I do believe DeMarcus Cousins simply brings more to the table, especially on the offensive end. One thing's for sure though, I do believe Boogie's at that point in his career where whatever team he signs to has to be a championship contender. And with the Lakers next year being a top favorite, and they have available roster spots at the center position, Boogie could simply be a new starting center. As of right now, the Lakers starting center is projected to be Marc Gasol, a floor spacing and defensive one. And with Boogie being known to be a pretty decent big man shooter, I do believe he'll be a big upgrade on Marc. He's younger, they've both been hit with injuries, but more importantly, Boogie simply has more to prove. Over the past few seasons, Boogie has seriously been ring chasing. He went to the Warriors, and then to the Lakers, and then to the Clippers. But having 0 NBA championships, I do believe going back to the number one option is a likely possibility. The Lakers this offseason has revamped their roster. They have gotten a lot better, and Rob Pelinka has done an excellent job in bringing in a lot of star power. From what it looks like, the Lakers are targeting veteran NBA players that have a lot of experience, a lot to bring to the table, and not focusing on young players. And with their final roster spots, we don't exactly know what they plan on doing, whether it's going full youth or full more veteran experience depth. And I believe if the Lakers are looking towards fully experienced depth players, I do believe Boogie will be a great target, despite his injury history. The fact that the Lakers were interested in Boogie in 2019 speaks one thing: LeBron has interest, Rob Pelinka has interest, and a reunion is not out of the picture. During this year's NBA buyout market, there were actually rumors that the Lakers were targeting DeMarcus Cousins, but they ended up getting Andre Drummond instead because Drummond at the time was actually seen to be the better available option. But oh boy guys, were the Lakers wrong. Drummond was not the best available option. They didn't win the NBA championship, and that's why I do believe they're looking elsewhere, going to an option they previously considered but didn't decide on. I believe if the Lakers signed DeMarcus Cousins, it would obviously be a veteran's minimum contract. The most important to know is that I do believe Boogie could even be the starting center over Marc Gasol and Dwight Howard. I mentioned it earlier, I do believe Boogie is better than Marc, especially if he's fully healthy, and having a frontcourt lineup of AD at power forward and Boogie at center, I do believe that brings more dominance than Marc and AD. One thing's for sure though, I do believe Dwight Howard was always going to be the backup center. Off the bench, he's going to come in and be a defensive focal point, especially at the rim protection. And even though Boogie isn't the best rim protector, he's not a bad one. He's a solid one. We all know Russell Westbrook and DeMarcus Cousins have previous history. They were actually on the same NBA college team together, and with the Lakers having two elite playmakers of Westbrook and LeBron, Boogie could find more open looks and simply have more floor spacing opportunities. Imagine having Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins eat the paint, be dominant in it, but also having the ability to be an efficient three-point shooter. I would love to see this happen. Signing Boogie would give them this option and give them more versatility, especially on the offense. The Lakers right now are looking for another center, and in my opinion, Boogie is a great target. But I am going to say this as well, the Lakers are not the only team that I believe would be a great fit for Boogie. I believe the Brooklyn Nets are also a primetime target. As we speak, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden are trying to recruit DeMarcus Cousins. With DeMarcus Cousins previously being one of the best centers in the NBA, he has a lot of connections and NBA superstars know his value. And with him right now coming at a very discounted price, the Brooklyn Nets need a new center, especially after what happened last season. During the Brooklyn Nets last year's NBA buyout market, it was the same predicament. They were targeting players via the buyout market, and they were targeting Blake Griffin, DeMarcus Cousins, and LaMarcus Aldridge. During this time, they ended up signing Blake Griffin. We all know that was a pretty good move. And then they were deciding between LaMarcus Aldridge and Boogie, and ended up signing LaMarcus Aldridge. And then before the NBA playoffs, LaMarcus Aldridge came out of nowhere and told everybody he's going to retire. And with that being said, I do believe the Nets still want that one dominant center off the bench to be a factor, especially in a deep championship playoff run. After failing last year in the NBA playoffs, the Brooklyn Nets are in full throttle for the NBA championship. Last year, they were hit with so much injuries, and that's why the Bucks ended up beating them in Game 7, but next season, they look fully healthy. They got Patrick Mills, they got James Johnson, they brought back Blake Griffin, and maybe pairing up Kyrie Irving with DeMarcus Cousins, of course with Kevin Durant and James Harden. The Brooklyn Nets are definitely trying to do that right now. The Lakers should target DeMarcus Cousins, but the Brooklyn Nets right now are targeting him, especially with DeAndre Jordan expected not to get a lot of minutes. So yes guys, this wraps up my video for today, talking about DeMarcus Cousins and why I believe he will be a great fit on the Los Angeles Lakers to give them a dangerous front court. What's most important to me is I want to know your thoughts. Is signing Boogie a good idea, or do you believe the Lakers should target somebody else, maybe Paul Millsap or LaMarcus Aldridge? Put your thoughts down in the comments below. But other than that, take it easy, God bless. See you all next time on Easy Buckets. Woo!